From the Cronkite studios in downtown Phoenix, this is Cronkite News.
A show of support at Queen Creek High School this morning after 5 students died by suicide since May.
Another deadly shooting, this time on a college campus. The latest on the gun debate after the 12th school shooting of the year.
And the March 5th deadline to end DACA is rendered meaningless by the courts. But advocates and dreamers worry about being left in limbo.
Cronkite News starts now.
Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Alexis Burdine.
And I'm Imani Stevens. Thank you for joining us.
A group of moms is trying to make a difference. Project Connect 4 was at Queen Creek High School this morning after 5 students died by suicide since May. Cade Gardner spoke with leaders, parents, and students about what they do to help raise awareness of teen suicide.
The moon is still out, but parents and students arrive at school early to raise awareness about teen suicide. Project Connect 4 was founded by a group of moms who want to make sure Arizona students have a voice and know there are people willing to listen.
This is actually our second time being out here to Queen Creek in the last couple of months because they've had a couple of students that have died by suicide. And so we came out here the other time to just be out here and just show these kids that there's people out here that care about them and what's happening.
One thing we've heard a lot of today is it's cold, but that hasn't stopped any of these teachers, parents, or just friends of students here at Queen Creek High School from coming out and supporting their friends, families, and those they don't even know. For parents, the recent suicides at the school hit home. They want to make sure no child feels unloved.
I understand parents are busy, but there's others, and if we all stay together, maybe we can make this never happen again.
Parents weren't the only ones waving to buses as they rolled in.
We're a family. It's a good school. We come together in times of need, and everybody is bonding together. The admin, the teachers, the students. It's all one united force.
Some who came to show their support today had no family or friends in the school, but knew they needed to be out there.
I wanted to make sure that I came out and let all of the kids know that they are loved and that they do matter and that every single one of them is important to us.
As the first bell rang, Project Connect 4 members picked up their signs so they're ready to head to the next school that needs them. In Queen Creek, Cade Garner, Cronkite News.
Students were not allowed to demonstrate on campus grounds, but did plan to hang their signs in the school's halls.
2 people were killed at Central Michigan University today. Police say a 19-year-old suspect opened fire on a campus dormitory. It's the 12th school shooting in the U.S. this year. Investigators say neither victim was a student and the shooting was the result of a domestic dispute. Students, faculty, and staff took shelter in place while police searched for the suspect. Schools surrounding the area were in secure mode, meaning all interior doors were locked with blinds drawn and was not allowed to enter buildings. Meanwhile, in Florida, a police union is calling for transparency. It wants a public release of all surveillance videos and dispatch logs in response to the Parkland school shooting. The Florida State Senate will hold a rare Saturday session to consider a bill addressing school safety and gun sales. And Everytown for Gun Safety announced today it will provide a $2.5 million grant to communities holding marches to protest gun violence nationwide.
Next Monday was the day that DACA recipients had dreaded for months, the day the Trump administration planned to end the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program. But courts last month put those plans on hold, giving young immigrants some hope for now. Washington Bureau reporter Ariana Bustos is tracking what comes next.
Arizona dreamer Erica Andiola says she's not worried about the March 5th deadline, but is worried about the months that come after it.
March 5th was not necessarily, it's right now symbolic, but the urgency that dreamers feel in terms of getting deported and losing our DACA is real, is still there.
Andiola came to a rally this week to support 11 Dreamers who marched from New York City to Washington, D.C. One of those marchers, Aldo Solano, says he feels like Dreamers are in a state of limbo.
We're tired of seeing, waking up every day and seeing like a different news story of this and that happening. We're done with the politics. We're sick of the political games. We want Congress to act and to do what's within their power and what the American people want.
Alex Narasta, immigration policy analyst at the Cato Institute, says much will remain the same for DACA recipients.
The pace at which they will lose their work permits will increase after March 5th. So it's not necessarily a hard and fast deadline. Dreamers and DACA kids have been deported prior to this. They will continue to be deported after this.
Dreamers can continue to submit renewals after the March 5th deadline as the decision on DACA moves through the courts. Narasta says the process will happen very slowly.
The courts are a mystery. I have no idea when they're going to come to a decision. I don't even think they know when they're going to come to a decision.
Andiola says it's time for Congress to act.
The urgency hasn't gone away. Congress might not feel the urgency right now. We don't see it on the news as much anymore, but we're still in limbo. And at least for us, we're not gonna give up. We can't afford to give up.
In Washington, Adriana Bustos, Cronkite News.
Both sides agree there will be an economic impact with immigration reform, but not surprisingly, the two sides disagree how this will affect your pocketbook. Shelby Lindsay breaks down the numbers.
There are nearly 30,000 DACA recipients in the state and just under 25,000 employed. The state will lose about $1.3 billion from its state gross domestic product each year if Dreamers are taken out of the economy, according to Philip Wolgan, Managing Director for Immigration Policy at American Progress.
A smaller economy for all workers in Arizona. It means likely less jobs to go around.
According to reports from the Institute on Taxation and Economic Policy, DACA recipients pay roughly $61 million each year in state and local taxes in Arizona. Wolgan said not only do the Dreamers contribute to taxes, but 16% bought houses and just over half bought cars.
If you have less people buying houses, as currently happened all across the country, that means the real estate market is affected.
Peter Bogard, communications director with Forward.us, said a $460 billion loss over the next decade to GDP is a small percentage of the $18.5 trillion, but doesn't reflect the people who will be affected.
This is a substantial economic consequence to, removing what are, incredibly productive people from our communities. These are individuals who are teachers, nurses, engineers, they're, mothers and fathers.
But Stephen Camerata, director of research at the Center for Immigration Studies, said there are costs to keeping DACA that critics overlook.
If you let an illegal immigrant go to the University of Arizona at in-state tuition, well, there's not an unlimited spots at the University of Arizona. There's not an unlimited amount of money in Arizona for people to attend college.
Camerata said the net cost of keeping DACA would be in the billions.
If you take all the taxes that would be generated by granting people this legal status in the DREAM Act, minus all the services people would now be able to use and so forth, you come up with a negative number of $26 billion over the next 10 years.
Wolgan said there's another cost that can't be measured in dollars or cents: the human lives affected.
We often think of this just in terms of the moral and humanitarian argument. These are people who came at a young age, they grew up here, etc. But, I don't think we talk enough about how devastating this would be for the economy.
In Washington, Shelby Lindsay, Cronkite News.
Coming up on Cronkite News, U of A coach Sean Miller makes his return to the Wildcat sideline.
And how a local town is trying to save one of Arizona's most vital creatures.
Floods in the west, snows to our east. We'll see how your forecast shapes up your weekend here in Arizona.
I'm Judy Woodruff, anchor and managing editor of the PBS NewsHour. The journalists of tomorrow face a fast-changing media landscape, but quality news remains vitally important to our communities, our country, and our world. At ASU's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication, students learn solid, reliable reporting, holding the powerful accountable, and rebuilding the public's trust. The Cronkite School and Arizona PBS PBS, preparing the next generation for a stronger future of journalism.
As journalists at Cronkite News, we report on stories that matter to you by focusing on the local impact. We dig deeper and work tirelessly to keep you informed.
Live in Wickerburg.
Live in Los Angeles.
In Cleveland. In Washington. In Louisville.
From Jerusalem. Live in Philadelphia.
From around the world to right here in Phoenix.
At Cronkite News, we report the facts and stick to the truth.
Millions of people die every year from drinking dirty water. I would never have felt I had the ability to do something without ASU pushing me. We built filtration systems out of local materials with the people. To see those kids drink clean water for the first time, it's the most rewarding feeling that you can ever have. I went to ASU because I wanted to change the world. The thing I never would have expected is how the world would have changed me.
Arizona men's basketball head coach Sean Miller made his return to the Wildcats bench last night and received a standing ovation from the U of A fans. This return comes after Miller denied allegation that he discussed payments with star player DeAndre Ayton of $100,000. Miller called these reports defamatory and said he's never knowingly violated NCAA regulations. The University of Arizona stopped the FBI for wiretapped recordings, but the FBI denied the request due to the ongoing investigation.
A winter storm is sweeping the Northeast, causing a near shutdown for flights and road transportation along the eastern seaboard. This storm, a nor'easter, is flooding parts of Boston and dropping more than 20 inches of snow in some areas of western New York. The winds from the storm are so strong that they have knocked down trees in Washington, D.C. More than 700,000 customers across the Northeast are without power. Higher elevations in California are getting snow too, like Lake Tahoe. Will any of this winter blast head our way, Amani?
Not exactly, but we are experiencing pretty neutral temperatures. As you can see right now across the country, it's 36 in New York. So if you're heading there for spring break, you better pack a coat. And even if you're going down west to Los Angeles, you're gonna experience some rain with a high of 59. But here, if you stay in the valley tonight, you can expect 66 around 8 p.m. with clear skies. Absolutely gorgeous, which leads us in tomorrow. If you're going to go to the park, you're gonna have 70 in Phoenix, 69 in Buckeye, and 69 also in Apache Junction. And if you're going to take a quick trip to some spring training games, here's what you can expect in Scottsdale: 69, 70 in Phoenix, 70 in Goodyear, and 70 in Mesa. Now let's take a quick look at our 3-day planner. We're going to have a high of 72 on Monday, but luckily towards the end of the week, we're finally hitting the 80s, and it's going to warm up, thankfully. In the Weather Center, I'm Imani Stevens.
You may not see bats often because of their nocturnal lifestyle, but the work they do each night helps the state's ecosystem. Reporter Nicole Hernandez shows us how the town of Marana went out of its way to make sure their bats had a home.
They're very, very tiny.
The Mexican free-tailed bats that migrate through the Tucson area twice a year often stop to live in the crevices of old-style bridges. But when officials began tearing those bridges down, the bats started losing their homes.
You hate to destroy their habitat because they've been living here for years and years and years.
So wildlife biologist Sandy Wolf tried to find a way to keep Tucson as a stopping point in the migration. She started with the renovation of Ina Road Bridge.
I suggested incorporating the bat habitat into the design of the bridge.
These habitats, called bat boxes, have been used before, but the Ina Road Bridge is the first in Arizona to have the boxes built within the structure. The new design not only provides shelter for the bats, but it also helps moderate Arizona's harsh weather.
With the new bat boxes, the bats that would have been displaced by the new Ina Road Bridge construction are now going to have new habitats and be able to help the Tucson ecosystem during their migrations.
They're like the jets of the bat world. They're very fast, open-air flyers.
With their speed, the bats help keep pesky insects from destroying neighboring farmland.
So in the absence of this Mexican free-tailed bat colony, you're going to have a lot more pesticide use on a lot of the agricultural farms to our north.
Pest control is just one of the many benefits these bats bring to Arizona.
They're not rats, they're long-lived, they're intelligent, they're more closely related to primates, Bat habitat serves an ecological value. It also serves a value for the species' long-term survival.
In Marana, Nicole Hernandez, Cronkite News.
To make sure the bats found their bat boxes under the bridge, Arizona Game and Fish officials sprayed liquefied bat droppings to leave their scent.
Stay tuned here on Arizona PBS for our top social stories of the week, coming next in our Cronkite News Refresh.
And for top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.
Welcome to @Cronkite News, your social sharing connection where you choose the news. Facebook likes and shares, tweets, retweets, and favorites. YouTube views and subscriptions. We're watching you watch us. From our digital home at cronkitenews.azpbs.org to your television, web browser, or mobile device. Let's get a refresh on the top Arizona news of the week.
Answering just one call can save a life. In honor of Black History Month, reporter Imani Stevens follows Captain Courtney Jenkins with the Phoenix Fire Department to tell us about his call to service.
A lot of the calls we go on don't end up in a good way.
Captain Courtney Jenkins did not expect a career in firefighting.
So I went to the police department first, went through their process, and I guess I scared them. They thought maybe I was a little too dangerous, so they sent me to the fire department. You know, experience is not something you can read. You have to live it.
When the call comes in, Captain Jenkins and other firefighters have to put on all of this gear, weighing at around 60 pounds. But often, the challenges faced on the job weighs more than the gear.
Sometimes the first and the people who kind of give people exposure to your culture.
In 1994, the Affinity Group was established, naming themselves after James Wesley Robinson, the first Black firefighter with the Phoenix Fire Department. Robinson joined in 1953, not only making history, but breaking barriers.
The numbers are few here.
Captain Jenkins says that J.W. Robinson was not only strong physically, but in his character.
When he first came to the station, one of his stations, that he would sit out back to eat, and the other guy sat inside. You're talking about in the 60s. So eventually, over time, one guy's come out there and sit with him and eat. The next you know, two guys are out there sitting with him and eating. The next you know, the whole crew is out there, and they finally looked at each other and went, "This is stupid. Why are we sitting outside?"
Captain Jenkins joined the force 2 years after Robinson's death, but Robinson's strength lives through Captain Jenkins.
I'm gonna run until I can no longer run. Then I'm gonna walk. Then when I can't walk, I'll crawl. And then when I can't crawl, I'll fall. But I'm gonna fall facing the direction of trying to do something, get something done. We have to be at our best. We don't have a choice.
Captain Jenkins says he lives by the motto, it's better to give than to receive.
Public service is just my path.
A path that will soon be changing direction. Captain Jenkins plans to retire this September from the Phoenix Fire Department after 26 years of service. In Phoenix, Imani Stevens, Cronkite News.
The World Championships of Hoop Dancing brought indigenous tribes from all across North America to the Valley this month. One local family showing the world the importance of their native culture, and they're doing it through dance. Lillian Donahue has the story.
I'm part of the Duncan family, and we all hoop dance.
More than a dozen dancers spanning 3 generations make up the Duncan clan, an Apache family that's devoted their lives to using dance as a way to keep their culture alive. After months of intense practice, 10 family members showed off their routines at the World Championship of Hoop Dancing in Phoenix. The youngest, less than 2 years old. 7-year-old Tizok was not afraid during his first competition.
I'm usually a comedy guy. I like to do funny stuff.
In hoop dancing, the circle represents the circle of life. Now, the dancers can use from 4 to up to 40 of these to make different designs of everything under the sun, from eagles to horses.
More than just a dance, hoop dancing is a sport with intricate moves and fast footwork. The family travels around the world with other Native performers, hoping to preserve and share their tradition.
There's a lot of people on this earth, and a lot of them might not know about our culture.
The Duncan dance dancers have consistently ranked in the World Championships for years, but beyond merit, this year had a special family touch during the final round.
And the song that I'm going to sing is a song that I actually created myself for my whole family. In Apache, the words say how beautiful they dance through the hoops.
In Phoenix, Lillian Donahue, Cronkite News.
Great job, Lillian. This year, 2 Duncan family members finished in the top 4 in the youth and adult divisions.
Polls are open for a few more hours in a special primary election for Arizona's 8th congressional district. And there's a higher than expected voter turnout in the race to replace former Representative Trent Franks, who resigned last year amid sexual misconduct allegations. Many are calling the special election a race between Republicans. Cronkite News reporter Sydney Eisenberg talked with voters today.
I hit the polls today to talk with voters about the influence party had on their decision today. Those I spoke with say party didn't influence their decision. What did was the issues. Some of the 15 Republican candidates, including Phil Lovas, are aligning themselves with the president to help win over Arizona voters. While President Trump won the popular vote across Arizona, here in Maricopa County, he only won by 47%, one of the smallest winning percentages across the state. Voter William Nagel says a candidate being pro-Trump did have an impact, but did not completely sway his decision.
It wasn't the main thing, but it did have a little bit. I want people to have their own thoughts. That's why we put them there. But I don't want them to just be voting Republican or Democrat just because that's what you are. On the other side, Peter Lewis says whether a Democratic candidate speaks out against the president doesn't sway his vote. However, he understands the power the office has and thinks the candidates should too.
But he's the president. He's got a lot of juice. He's the back you got to scratch in Washington.
Nagel is worried that recent elections have turned the conversation away from what they should focus on.
Normally, it's a issue driven vote, but it's getting to the point where I don't think it's issues anymore. It's party. According to the Secretary of State's office, they had received over 100,000 early ballot votes, only 3/4 of what they expected to see. They say they will begin posting results around 8:10. In the Media Center, Sydney Eisenberg, Cronkite News.
Communities from both sides of the border came together over the weekend, displaying a transnational partnership through art and dance. Cronkite News reporter Lillian Donahue went across the border to see how 2 nations became one.
The U.S.-Mexico border fence spans as far as the eye can see. As big as it is, for 1 hour, both sides came together in a very close relationship.
2 stages, 2 languages, 2 countries, 1 performance. Dozens of dancers and artists came together over the weekend on the border between Douglas, Arizona and Agua Prieta, Mexico, using art to transcend barriers.
To create something that may have meaning to one person and a different meaning to another person still has a communication and a shared point. And I think that is what we're trying to do, is trying to be cross-border and cross-culture and cross-language.
The performance is a part of the Binational Arts Residency, a collaboration between many different organizations and educational institutions. It's also completely led by women.
It's a really important moment in time for something like this to be created by women coming together and working together.
Alvarez also says the dancers represent a multi-dimensional diversity at a critical time in the history of U.S.-Mexico relations.
There's this border and we just created a show together. We actually, for a moment in time, existed together in a space.
For some, the performance was an emotional glimpse into the future as the next generation learns about cross-country collaboration.
And just to see our local artists do what they did, it just fills me with so much hope and happiness.
I hope that we can continue doing more things like this so that children can learn that we are not 2, we are 1, like they say, without borders.
And if just for a moment, both sides brought together despite the barriers that stand in the way.
What were once blank canvases are now filled with color, a representation of the day for those who are going home to their separate countries, but shared 1 hour together. Lillian Donahue, Cronkite News.
The 10-day binational residency continues this week with more events and performances in Tucson.
Now, here's an @Cronkite News Pick of the Week, a favorite from the Cronkite News staff.
As storms move in, dust can get kicked up. These storms can make seeing the car in front of you impossible. It's something the Arizona Department of Transportation has been working on. Cronkite News reporter Nicole Costantino is live in Eloy, where some new technology is going in to try to keep the dust down. Nicole?
Tyler, here along I-10 and State Route 87, the freeway is getting wider. Along with this construction, ADOT plans on putting in a new dust storm detection system.
This is the site of the Arizona Department of Transportation's future dust storm detection system, the first of its kind. ADOT will have cameras and radar systems set up along the stretch of the I-10 freeway about halfway between Phoenix and Tucson to detect dust storms in real time. When visibility is reduced, automated overhead message boards will be triggered, notifying drivers. That's when ADOT spokesman Tom Herman says drivers need to do the right thing and pull over.
When you see a dust storm and you can't see where you're going, pull off the highway, pull aside, stay alive. That's been our mantra for the past 7 or 8 years, and we really think that's going to continue to be an important part of this.
It's all in an effort to protect drivers on one of Arizona's busiest freeways and save lives.
It's a very important section for the 2 largest metropolitan areas in Phoenix, where people are driving back and forth. So this will help millions of people.
ADOT says they chose this stretch of the I-10 because it's the area where they've seen the most dust-related accidents. They expect the system to be complete fall 2019. Live in Eloy, Nicole Costantino, Cronkite News.
Cronkite News tracks your likes, tweets, and shares from all our social sites to bring you this special @Cronkite News, our weekly refresh. Join the conversation so you choose the news. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, subscribe to us on YouTube, and log on to cronkitenews.azpbs.org for top Arizona stories anytime.